Well, there's still plenty of time to be planting trees and shrubs and working in your landscape. And one good way to come up with some great ideas for your landscape is to attend some of the many garden tours that go on across the state. And one coming up next weekend in Oklahoma City is going to be in the Nichols Hills area. And not only will this two-day tour of homes give you great ideas for the landscape, but it will also give you some good ideas on how to use different things to accent the home and the landscape, such as walkways and patios and decks and different types of architectural structures that you can use in the landscape. One of the first homes that we'll give you a sneak preview of is the original home of Mr. and Mrs. E.K. Gaylord. It has recently been redesigned and landscaped and is now owned by Mr. and Mrs. Steve Lynn. The home is a very large home with 2 stories, and the front yard actually faces the north side of the home. And because of the 2-story, there's going to be a lot of shade, and so there's been lots of plant material selected just for that shade from the home. You'll see various plants that will withstand full shade as well as partial shade, and then as you go further away from the front of the home, you'll see selection of plants that withstand more sunlight. The front yard is a wide open space with a lot of native trees that are going to be reaching their peak in the next several years as far as maturity, and so they've compensated with the yard by using fescue, which will withstand some of that shade. And the rich green color of the fescue is a nice complement for the house, and the overall front landscape just adds to the beauty of the older home. One thing that I want you to notice, though, in some of the plantings along the front of the house is that because of the heavy soils in Oklahoma City, they've raised the planting level up a little bit so they'll get better drainage. Now, the backyard is designed for various activities that includes the entire family. In addition to the swimming pool and the tennis courts, you'll see various planting beds around that really add nice features to the entire landscape. In this particular bed, we see a lot of various conifers and evergreens, so we'll have year-round color. And of course, we're reaching the tail end of our cool season bedding plants, and I understand they're going to be bringing in a lot of bedding plants for the summer tomorrow, so it's going to be really a lot of color for the show. But one thing I want you to notice again, in the landscape bed here, they've raised it up again to allow for better drainage because of those heavy soils. And also our soils tend to be high in pH here. So for the mulch, they're using pecan hulls, which makes a real nice mulch. It's a byproduct from Oklahoma, and it will slightly reduce the pH of the soil over a long period of time, making it a little bit more acidic. So that's really a nice gesture to use as a mulch, and it is very attractive, and it really doesn't blow away in some of our Oklahoma winds. You'll also see in the backyard some real nice use of native trees, but also some multi-trunk trees that are clumped together to give a nice appearance. Things like the various oak trees, the Amer maple. You'll also see some nice specimens of blue spruce and redbud. And again, fescue in the high use areas, but they've got real nice brick walkways to keep people and direct them to the appropriate activity. Also in the backyard is a sunken garden area using sandstone and other native rock with a various assortment of shade-loving plants. And of course, this area is also used for their barbecue area, but even from the sunken gardens, you can't help but to see the nice feature or centerpiece of the entire landscape, which is the garden temple over on the other side of the pool with a very rustic look. And one of the nicest things about this entire landscape is they've really planned for use of an area just for the children and the pets. They've got an area off to the side here that has a really attractive swing set, and you'll notice that there's not anything really other than trees and grass and not a lot of landscape plants just for the high use area. So if you like vintage homes and some really great ideas for the landscape for the family use, this is a home you sure don't want to miss. Another garden on the tour is at the home of Mr. and Mrs. Gary Brooks. It too is a fairly young landscape, and it's basically got a lot of great ideas for the smaller landscaper yard. It's divided into three major areas in the landscape. The front yard, which really showcases a lot of trees, which we like to see here on Oklahoma Gardening. And the trees are fairly young, but again, they're planted in among some fescue to give them a little bit of color in contrast with their home for year-round. Now, also in the front yard, around the brick driveway, one of the things they've done that I really like is that they've gone ahead and planted the entire area between the house and the driveway, where a lot of people would try to put in another row or two of grass, trying to crowd in a little bit more. So they've put in a lot of ground cover, such as ajuga, English ivy, which is also cascading up the house, and again, more shade-tolerant plants because of the north side of the home. So it really adds a nice feature, and the balance is real nice for, again, another two-story house. Now, the side yard is really a play area. It has high traffic area, obviously, because there's more emphasis put on grass and trees, which makes it a little bit safer for the kids. Leading us into the backyard is a curving brick sidewalk, which parallels a beautiful textured stone wall. This is an architectural feature we saw quite often in the Tulsa Garden Tour, and it has a tendency to break up the front yard along with the side yard, and it's a nice barrier to a lot of the traffic that comes by as well. And then the area is offset with some more multi-trunk or clumping various trees. And the backyard seems to be the location where a lot of time is spent. Has also a little bit older plant material, such as a sycamore, which is a focal point right above the pool, and also some older weeping mulberry trees. Then we have another new planting of various trees in some of the planting islands using rock and ground cover such as moneywort and andina, and some of the cool season annuals again right on their way out. They've also added a nice touch to the patio or deck area by using some container gardens.